You are watching the M.A.P.S Wellness Room. I'm your host, Miata Clark. Join me weekly for dynamic guests, tips, and advice. Most of all, positive energy. And remember, my friend, you have power.
Hello, everyone. I am Elaine Sugar, and welcome to the M.A.P.S Wellness Room. Miata Clark is not available for this interview, so I am glad to be standing in with her. And I am joined today by Mark, and we are going to start out by letting Mark tell us a little bit about himself and what he does. So hello, Mark, and welcome.
Hey, Elaine, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So tell everybody what it is that you do.
So, Elaine, I work as a life and executive coach, and I am also a public speaker. That's very, very high level what I do. What I do is I help people find out who they are again. I kind of help people come home to themselves. That's what I feel like I do quite a lot of. Like even from an executive coaching perspective and a personal coaching perspective, I find an awful lot of our challenges because we've shifted out of who we are. We don't really know what's going on for ourselves. We don't really know where we stand in our own lives anymore. And I find that a lot of what I do is trying to help people come back to that, begin to remember who they are, begin to find that out again for themselves and start living from that space.
Yeah, I think there's so many times where we get into trying to be what someone else wants us to be, even probably as children being raised in our parents' house, kind of you're initially under that influence of what they think you should be doing and how you think they should be doing it. And then we start to look around at other people on TV or our friends and think, oh, maybe that's what I should be doing. So I think those are some very valuable lessons. So thank you. And what words of wisdom could you offer someone who is on that journey that you described to find yourself and be yourself?
I'm reading a wonderful book at the moment, Elaine, and it's called H is for Hawk. It's written by Helen MacDonald.
Okay.
It won I think maybe the Orange Prize for women's fiction a couple of years ago. And it's about this lady who's dealing with the trauma and grief of her father dying, and she is a falconer, as in she has previously in her life had wild birds of prey, and she decided to get a hawk. And I'm reading it about 4 pages a night, and I would read an awful lot, but it demands this slow attention. Because with her I am learning how to get and build a relationship with a hawk. And what I'm learning in it and what I'm loving about it is the compassion she is having to show. This slowing down and allowing the hawk to be comfortable, allowing it to find its space. So I think for all the listeners, there's a huge, huge necessity for compassion in our lives. We don't have enough of it for others because we do not know what battles people are fighting. But for ourselves, we are so hard on ourselves all the time. We set ourselves these expectations. I should be this, I should be better, I should be able to cope. If we step back and say, you know what, it's okay sometimes that I can't. It's okay sometimes that I need a little bit of help. If we learn to be compassionate with ourselves, it's a huge starting point to learning how to come back home to ourselves.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And it's so interesting. I definitely thought you were going to talk about something more directly that she was teaching you about yourself. And sometimes we learn lessons in different ways, because sometimes if you start out with a person working on themselves or looking at themselves, that can be a little bit difficult, but you have the person attention focused on building a relationship with a hawk, right? And what you can learn from that. And now you're not so self-conscious. You know, it's sometimes when somebody's asking you to do something, oh my gosh, am I going to do it right? But you get to learn these lessons from a hawk. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think it's of all strange things to happen to me lately, I was cycling across a mountain here in Ireland on holidays, and above my head there appeared a hawk. And I had this book in my bag back on our campsite that we were staying, and I hadn't opened it at all yet. And I thought, there's something in that. But it also reminds me, we have a cat in our own house Elaine, and we got it from a rescue center.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs all the time compassion because she has no trust and no faith.
Yeah.
So she's always scared and wary of things. So you have to be calm and slow and gentle,
Mm-hmm.
and demonstrate to her that you're safe, that you don't mean anything, that you want to do the right thing for her. And it's just, it keeps me thinking about the way we need to approach ourselves, because
Yes.
we hide from ourselves an awful lot. The real us is hidden somewhere inside, but it's scared to show itself. Unless it gets that compassion, that it feels that it's safe, that it feels like the environment that's been created for it is good and it's okay, and I can do this here in this safe space.
Yeah, compassion. So don't you think a lot of us also take that same approach when we are looking to hire a coach or maybe a doctor or someone? You want to make sure you're going to be in a safe space. So sometimes you're kind of leery at first. And at the end of the day, that's what you're looking for. Is this going to be a safe place? Am I going to be well taken care of and comforted here?
Am I protected? I think one of the most amazing things about the coaching space for me as a coach, but I mean about the counseling space, about a psychotherapy space, all of these spaces, is when you pluck up the courage to be vulnerable enough to open yourself up to these conversations that need to happen. When you find that space, if you have someone who's there to listen, and to listen to a point where there's no judgment, they don't mind what you say. They just want you to tell your story, allow you to actually see yourself. That is so liberating. And there's so many people in this world. I know for myself, Elaine, like some very good friends of mine, and maybe this happens to me more and more since I'm in this coaching world, and I'm used to having these conversations with people open up to me more. But some friends told me stuff recently that had been going on for them for years, and they felt that they could finally say these things, and they felt that it was finally safe for them to say these things. And that's so important, because there's so many people out there, so many people listen to your show, Elaine, and they need to speak, and they don't know who to speak to. They don't know where to speak. They don't know if they speak to a family member or a partner or a friend, will they be judged for what they have to say? You know, will they continue to hide it because of that wariness? But then there's other people out there who will listen and just listen. And holding that space for someone is an incredible gift to do to someone. And it is an absolute privilege to be on the other side of that and hear someone speak to what's really going on for them. I find I learn all the time from people telling me their truth. There's always something in it that I learn from too, because in life, how often are we exposed to that level of truth from other people?
Yeah. And do you have any words of advice from someone who may be at that point where they do need to share their story and they are carrying some burdens, but they are searching for that safe place? So what are the indications that this coach is right, or this person in their life is right? Or how can they figure that out? How can they move from that place of, I need to find someone that I can talk to about this, but I'm not sure it's safe? So how do they go about that? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the first place to start is to look at being vulnerable, because we have a tendency to look at vulnerability as weakness. But I think avoiding vulnerability is the weakness. Avoiding vulnerability is running away. Whereas if you allow yourself to be vulnerable, suddenly you're saying, okay, I'm putting this out in the world, and I'm just going to put it out there, and it's going to happen for me. Whatever happens is going to happen, you know. And that's the challenging space, is to go into that vulnerability. But then you have to have a conversation with these people that you want to work with, and you have to have a good conversation with them first too, because then you know if you have a rapport with them, you know if this is the kind of person that is there for you, because that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for someone who's, well, people are doing it as a career, but you want to know that they're there for you, that they are going to care about you, that they're going to protect you and hold you safe in that space. And I think you really can get that sense of someone very early on in a conversation with them when you're speaking to them, because we have an innate understanding of how other people will be and how other people can be in these spaces. And we know straight away, our body tells us, it doesn't lie. Our instinct will say to us, maybe this isn't the right person for me, or maybe it's not the right time either, which can sometimes be true as well. But I would encourage, though, Elaine, anyone who is feeling like they need to speak and they know that there's a burden, they need to go. And if they cannot find that space, and if they maybe coaching or this space is not where they want to go right now, there's other voluntary organizations out there that will allow them to speak and speak independently. And that's very important, because we should always speak when we have something that needs to be said.
Beautiful. What Your voice is so calm and you're giving great advice, but it's like, and you got the scene back there with the water. This is like the most relaxing interview ever.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Elaine.
So before we wrap up, is there anything you have going on or coming up that you just want to share with us and make sure that our listeners know how to get in touch with you if they want to connect with you after this interview?
Well, for myself, I don't have anything specific coming up at the moment. I will have in September and October. I'm going to be running a program. But I'm going to be talking at the M.A.P.S global event, which is a big honor for me. I'm really looking forward to that opportunity.
We are excited to have you. Are you at a point where you can give us a little teaser about your project that's coming up?
A little bit. I am talking about coming home to yourself. That's it's kind of what I've been living over the last number of years myself, Elaine, and I'm kind of feeling the sense of how important it is and how that's where once we live from that space, then everything makes sense. I'm not into trying to find what makes us happy in life. I'm into trying to find where our well-being is, because once we work from a place of well-being, then everything else, the good and the bad, the happy, the sad, they come and they go. But once we have a sense of who we are and a sense of ourselves, we can let them wash over us, and then we can live our life to our fullest from that space.
Beautiful. That is so awesome. So how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so I'm very easy to find, Elaine. I am Mark Carolan Coaching at on LinkedIn. I'm the same Mark Carolan Coaching on Facebook, even on Instagram and on TikTok too, but I'm not active enough on TikTok. And you'll find me very easily by email as markcarolancoaching@gmail.com. That's where I live.
Wonderful. This has been so fantastic, so calm, and I feel like I've got my relaxation in for the day, filled with wonderful information. Thank you so much for Mark for joining us. And I want to thank you for all of our listeners for joining us today in the M.A.P.S Wellness Room. And me or Miata, we'll see you the next time. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to be a guest here on the M.A.P.S Wellness Room, email us at themapswellnessroom@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm sending light, love, and power.